Hello to my beautiful bookish friends. Welcome back, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Emma and I'm so excited for today because I'm going to be going through a lot of the books that I plan on reading as we dive into the fall season. Because I always get into this huge conundrum where basically as soon as August hits, I'm ready for it to be fall, and not all the world is ready for that yet. So with my reading, I kind of like to ease into it with ones that are more of like a fall spooky vibe, and then I slowly make my way into things that are more spookified for like the actual October season. So that'll kind of give you a general direction for where we're going to be going today. But without further ado, let's get started. So the first book that I'm really excited to dive into, I'm probably going to read this next, is Lisa Jewell, and this is None of This Is True. This is a mystery thriller, psychological thriller, and it's about two women, and one of them is a podcaster, a popular podcaster, and she ends up coming across this woman a couple of different times, but then as they start to get to know each other better, things get a little bit weird. So basically, Alex is the one that has the podcast, and Josie has been listening to her podcast and thinks that she would be an interesting subject for her series. And then as Alex looks more into it, it says that Josie's life appears to be strange and complicated, and although Alex finds her unsettling, she can't quite resist the temptation to keep going on the project. Slowly, she starts to realize that Josie is hiding some very dark secrets, and before she knows it, Josie has inveigled? Here's the spelling. Do with that what you will. Has inveigled her way into Alex's life and into her home. Bum, bum, bum. But as quickly as she had arrived, Josie Fair disappears. Only then does Alex discover that Josie has left a terrible and terrifying legacy in her wake, and that Alex has become the subject of her own true crime podcast with her life and her family's lives in grave danger. Tell me that doesn't sound awesome! Okay, so one of the reasons I am so excited to read this now is because Only Murders in the Building, which is an amazing show. If you haven't watched it yet, I know a lot of people love it. I really love it. That just started airing its third season on Hulu, and they run a true crime podcast, and so this totally gives off the same kind of vibes. And since I'm such a huge fan of the show, and I am in my true crime podcast, TV show, book era, I thought that this would be perfect to kind of kick off more of the spooky vibes for fall. So that is None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. So the next one kind of falls into this category where as it starts to get colder out and the days get shorter, I gravitate a lot more towards fantasy and some books where I can really dig into it more deeply. And so that inspired my next pick, which is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. I've been seeing this one all over the internet, and so partially because it's fantasy and everything, but I've never read a Rebecca Ross novel, and because it's gotten so much hype, I kind of want to join on the bandwagon. So this is, let's see, it says, no god, no creature, no war can come between them. Bum, bum, bum. Okay, apparently that's my thing today, to bum, bum, bum. It says, when two young rival journalists find love through a magical connection, they must face the depths of hell in a war between gods to seal their fate forever. So it kind of reads as a fantastical, dark academia, enemies to lovers, but also with the depths of hell. It's casual. This one sounds really, really, really good. So this one will probably be my first fantasy read of fall, and I'm very excited. Alrighty, so I would be remiss if I did not have this book on my channel somewhere as someone who is contributing to the booktube community, and this is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Yarros, hopefully one of those. This is literally everywhere right now. In case you don't quite know what it's about, basically there is a girl who is in this society where they really heavily rely on dragons, and there are all these warriors and stuff that ride dragons, and her mother leads this group of dragon rider warriors. The main girl really just wants to be a scribe. She has some things about her physique that make it hard for her to be a dragon rider, and so she would much rather prefer to be among the books, which I can heavily relate to. You know, there's dragons, there's fantasy, heard there's a little bit of romance. It's a cozy, long fantasy to dive into for fall, so not original by any means in this pick, but I am really excited to actually get to know the story myself. So that is Fly or Die, Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. So this next one is also, again, more in the mystery thriller vein. I've never read this author before, so I'm also really excited to dive into this one. It is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. Something to know about me is that I am 100% completely a wuss when it comes to really, really scary, really graphic storytelling. So yeah, I've never read a Riley Sager book before. I wouldn't touch his horror books with a 10-foot pole. I know people love them, and I totally love that for you, but I also know that I value my sleep, and I don't need to be riddled with nightmares. So this one, however, I've heard is not horror. It's more just like a mystery thriller type thing. And just the cover of the big mansion on the cliff top, definitely giving fall vibes. What really sold me on this one, though, was the fact that it takes place in this like crumbling house on a rocky outcrop, and this woman who is a nurse, I believe, goes to take care of this woman who was accused of murdering her family. She is the only survivor after her entire family is killed in an attack in 1929, and a lot of people assume it was her, but other than denying that it wasn't her, she really has never spoken about the case whatsoever. So it's now 1983, so quite a bit later, and Lenora, who's the one whose family was killed, is unable to speak because of a series of strokes, and so she can only communicate with Kit, the nurse, by tapping out sentences on an old typewriter. One night, Lenora uses it to make a tantalizing offer. I want to tell you everything. It wasn't me, Lenora said, but she's the only one not dead. As Kit helps Lenora write about the events leading to the Hope family massacre, it becomes clear there's more to the tale than people know. But when new details about her predecessor's departure come to light, Kit starts to suspect Lenora might not be telling the complete truth, and that the seemingly harmless woman in her care could be far more dangerous than she first thought. I, like, legitimately have chills right now thinking about this. There is a creepy mansion. There's weirdness and like the communicating. There's a really good mystery. The whole typewriter thing is so cool. Like, I'm just imagining these messages coming through and her trying to like deal with them. Oh, it sounds so spooky and chilly. And I'm imagining sitting here reading this with a cup of tea when it's stormy outside, and then I can just dive into this one and totally get lost in this world. And so I know I keep saying this about every single book, but I'm so excited to read this one. So I haven't really talked about many romance books today. The group of like fall themed books that I grabbed are much more heavily like in like the fantasy genre or like a mystery, thriller, suspense. And I do love me a good love story. So I figured The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches would be a great addition to this TBR for fall, obviously because, you know, witches, but I know people really loved this one last year and it got a lot of great reviews. But this one is about Mika Moon. She's one of the few witches in Britain. She knows she has to hide her magic, keep her head down, and stay away from other witches so their powers don't mingle and draw attention. And as an orphan who lost her parents at a young age and was raised by strangers, she's used to being alone and she follows the rules, with one exception: an online account where she posts videos pretending to be a witch. She thinks no one will take it seriously. But someone does. An unexpected message arrives begging her to travel to the remote and mysterious Nowhere House to teach 3 young witches how to control their magic. It breaks all of the rules, but Mika goes anyway and is immediately tangled up in the lives and secrets of not only her 3 charges, but also an absent archaeologist, a retired actor, 2 long-suffering caretakers, and Jamie. The handsome and prickly librarian of Nowhere House would do anything to protect the children, and as far as he's concerned, a stranger like Mika is a threat. An irritatingly appealing threat. As Mika begins to find her place at Nowhere House, the thought of belonging somewhere feels like a real possibility. But magic isn't the only danger in the world, and when peril comes knocking at their door, Mika will need to decide whether to risk everything to protect a found family she didn't know she was looking for. This kind of gives House in the Cerulean Sea vibes to me, where there is this house that's remote, it's kind of magical, has some cool stuff going on, and then there are these children that have magical powers that are being protected from outside forces. So it really kind of gives me those vibes, but with like a enemies to lovers witchy twist, which I love and I think is perfect for fall because I really did like the House in the Cerulean Sea. So if you read that book, I would assume you're gonna like this book too. I'm really looking forward to it, and we'll see what I think when I get around to it this October. So those are all the books that I'm going to be talking about today. I'm sure that my actual TBR is going to change like 27 times between now and by the time we actually get all the way through fall, but it's so fun to kind of start planning ahead and getting really excited about all of my options for what I can read, and it makes me feel so much cozier having all of these reading options available and knowing that I like all of them, or I hope I'm gonna like all of them, and that I like all of the premises. So if you've stuck around to the end, thank you so much. I will see you again soon, and I hope you have a super awesome list of fall books that you'd like to read yourself. And if you have any recommendations, please drop them below, and I will see you next time.